Okay. In a recent Time magazine article, you wrote that Mir Hussein Mousavi has American blood on his hands, specifically in respect to the 1983 U.S. Embassy bombings and the attack on the United States Marines. Would you please elaborate on those claims, as well as your experience with the situation?
Well, Mousavi's involvement in the U.S. Embassy bombing is not claims. This is well documented in U.S. intelligence. We knew that he was directly running an intelligence team out of the Prime Minister's office in Beirut, which in April 1982 started planning the bombing of the U.S. Embassy. At at in this, Mousavi himself said, "Yes, fine, let's do this, but we'll wait a year until April 18th, 1983 to do the bombing." This was, and we also have the question of his ambassador in Damascus, Moteshimi Poor, who was directly involved in the Marine bombing. All of this has been covered in the American press, and in those days, the Marine bombing. It's just no question that he was a firebrand revolutionary in 1981, 82, 83 when he was prime minister. These are not my personally held beliefs, but this is what we knew from American intelligence. There's no question about it.
So let's go back to the 1980s. Would you please describe for us the relationship between Mousavi and men such as Ahmadinejad and the appointed Iranian ambassador to Damascus at the time? Who were those men? What were their actions in respect to the United States? And where does Mousavi come into the picture?
Ahmadinejad was head of the Islamic Jihad organization, and he reported directly in those days to the Revolutionary Guards, the Prime Minister's office in Tehran, Mousavi. The connection was direct. Every time Ahmadinejad would travel to Tehran, he'd see Mousavi. He would also see the Iranian ambassador in Damascus, Moteshimi Poor, was handpicked by Mousavi. We have to remember the times back then. Iran was at war with the United States and Lebanon. There was kidnappings, bombing. There was Iranian support for the Islamic resistance. A lot of this was done directly out of the Prime Minister's office.
Thank you. And right now, the Western media looks to Mousavi with hope and optimism. How do you believe Mousavi's less than democratic roots would translate into future U.S.-Iranian foreign policy?
Oh, I think that Mousavi has certainly gotten over this period of running the Islamic Jihad. He's gotten over his revolutionary days. But the point is, he's an Iranian nationalist. And people in the United States tend to look at him as some sort of pure form of a Democrat. It's just not the man. He is going to be as tough on the United States as Ahmadinejad is, or any other Iranian. It's Americans are just delusional about politics in Iran. I don't see it any other way. Look, Mousavi has blood on his hands. He was directly involved in blowing up the Marines. He was directly involved in blowing up the United States Embassy in Beirut. This is well documented in American intelligence. His connections to the ambassador in Damascus, who was running these operations, Moteshimi Poor, Mousavi later in his interior minister. He does not have democratic roots, nor is he particularly pro-Western. He is an Iranian nationalist.
Thank you. And finally, let's talk about the present Ahmadinejad Mousavi protests and riots that are being shown. Who are the key actors in this conflict? Who do you think is behind them, and what lies at the heart of the struggle?
Well, this is really a power struggle in Iran. It's not so much about an indigenous democratic movement. You have Rafsanjani, the former president, the head of the Assembly of Experts, is really the driving force against Ahmadinejad. Mousavi, in this case, is his ally. We're seeing fissures in the Iranian regime. And more than anything, what we've seen in Tehran is an unacknowledged military coup d'etat. The fact that the Basij came out in the streets immediately during the demonstrations tells me that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which commanded the Basij, is a key player in this, and Ahmadinejad is just a spokesman for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. We see Khamenei, the spiritual leader of Iran. He's ill. He has to rely on the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And so we shouldn't get really focused on the democratic nature of what's happening in Tehran as we should as a power struggle.